In this video, we're going to cover some of the new updates that came out as part of Power BI's December 2023 update, including things like the on-object interactivity updates, styling options for bar charts, and data label customization. All of that and more. So without further ado, let's get started. Hi, my name is Fanan, and welcome to the Solutions Abroad YouTube channel, where we cover tips, tricks, and best practices when working with Power BI. I upload new videos every week, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to get notified when a new one is out. So the first thing that I want to cover here is the updates that they made to the on-object interaction, which I feel like I've been covering every single month, but this month has been addressing some of the issues or concerns that the community has given with regards to how on-object interaction has been in terms of its usability. So now with this new update, it looks like you have an option to have the experience that is more similar to the previous experience without turning off on-object interaction. So here we are, and it's showing us just some of the things that you can enable and disable. So being able to move the build your visual on the right hand side, which actually majority of these things are already there. But the interesting thing that you will notice is when you open Power BI December version for the first time, you'll be greeted with this tooltip or this box asking you to choose what kind of setup you want to use. So do you want to keep the current setup, which is how the on-object interaction works at the moment, or you want to have a more classic pane setup, which basically sets up your panes to work similar to how it was before. So this classic pane setup is especially useful if you're already used to how the panes used to work in the past, but keeping aligned with the on-object interaction sort of feature. So you can enable and disable a lot of these changes on the options menu like you normally would before. But what's really interesting and what I like about this new feature is that, and it's just a very, very small tweak. You cannot really see it from here, but now when you open panes, if you have the classic pane setup, it stacks, which is great. And the thing that I like is that the button at the top of each of the panes, when you close them, instead of closing them, whereas before it was closing, now it just collapses it back to the pane switcher, which is a more intuitive way of, treating panes, because you would actually expect the panes to be minimized as opposed to just closed altogether. Next is this new ability to be able to add multiple data points using the data-flyout. So if you're using or adding data into a field well that can support multiple columns, previously you would need to add each of the columns or measures that you want to add in this pane, in this well, individually. So you'll have to click add data, then bring in the column, and then click add data again to bring in another column. But with this new update, you don't have to do that. You can just simply click add data and add as many data as you want in this field well. So another thing that you might notice when you open up the December Power BI version for the first time are these bubble messages, which is some information about where things are in Power BI. Now this is especially useful because every month the Power BI team releases a lot of updates and changes to the Power BI desktop, and some of the things might be moved around without you knowing it. So having these bubbles sort of help you guide where those massive changes are. And one of the examples that I thought was good was if you turn on object interaction, you won't find the tooltip or the drill through in the normal place where you would normally find it. And one of the bubbles actually point you to where you would find these new options, which is, in the grand scheme of things, it's very intuitive. However, if you haven't thought about it too hard, it will direct you to the right page information. So the next thing in this update are the new formatting changes that you can apply to your bar charts in your Power BI reports. So it looks like they've added a lot of sort of formatting enhancements that lets you, change how your bars or bar charts could look like, with a lot more options for you to play around with. So here, for example, you can see, just looking at this, you can change things like adding spacing in between your bars, being able to add transparency or control control the transparency of your bars, so you can play around with it and do some more customization with it. There are a bunch of things in this key enhancements page or area here that talks about some of the changes, but what I found useful is the blog post about it, which I'm going to link in the description box below. That just gives you an overview of all of the changes in a sort of visual format that you can actually see. So here, for example, you can see you can change the transparency levels of these bars. You can add borders. You can control them independently from the fill of your bars. You can adjust the layout and the spacing in between. So this is really interesting. So I'm going to leave a link to this blog post as well as the December updates blog post in the description box below. The next thing that I'm really excited to try out is this new extended customization for data labels. So it looks like with these labels, you can now add not just the title of the label, you can also add a value and detail separately in the same place. So it works similarly to the reference labels that they've added on the new card visuals. This is very exciting for me just because it lets you customize the data labels or on a lot of your visuals without having to rely on any custom solutions, which might break in the future. This one is pretty integrated or very native in Power BI, which means that you can implement it very easily as long as you have the DAX code or the formulas to fill those in. Azure Maps have also been updated. So it seems that for right now, the aggregation for the bubble layers in Azure Maps have been improved. So as you zoom in or zoom out, the grouping of these bubbles are a lot more sort of accurate than it was before. If I gotta be honest with you, I don't really use Azure Maps so much, so this probably won't cover this. However, if you're using Azure Maps, specifically bubble layers with Azure Maps, this is a new thing that you might expect for the December update. The next update is the alerts that you can use in your Power BI reports using the Data Activator. Now, Data Activator is one of the features that was announced a few months back as part of the Fabric announcements. And at that time, I didn't really know so much about the Data Activator and what it did. And now the Power BI team has given us one of its use cases, which is alerting you when your data reaches a certain threshold. Now, at the moment, Power BI, or at least Power BI reports, don't really have a data alerts feature, at the very least not in the Power BI reports themselves. There is a way that you can do or use them using dashboards by pinning them and setting up your alerts based on the tiles in your Power BI dashboards. However, with that solution, it's a little bit awkward just because in a lot of my implementations, I don't really use dashboards. And it seems that with this Data Activator, it lets you set up alerts directly in your Power BI reports, and it gives you a lot of options in terms of what you want to measure and how that alert gets sent and to who it gets sent to. So it looks like there's lots of ways that you can customize and lots of different use cases that you can use these alert system using Data Activators. I'm going to try to cover it in a separate video in the future. So when you're using storytelling with PowerPoint using Power BI, you will now have some suggested reports that will be presented to you when you're using it in PowerPoint. So you can use the suggested reports to simply just embed the reports that you have access to, which makes your experience a little bit faster. However, you can still do the same thing as you do before, which is just copy and pasting the URL of your reports and pasting it here. The suggested or pasting the URL will bring you to the same options that you had before, which is either embedding a part of your report or embedding the whole page of your report. A few small updates on the paginated reports with Power BI. You now have the ability to search for keywords in your reports using the search box on the top ribbon. Now, the search box or the search option applies to all of the pages in your paginated report, so that's pretty handy to have. And you also now have this ability to sort your column rows by clicking the sort button, which is next to the column headers of your tables. So it's sort of similar to the Power BI experience. When you're using Git integration in Fabric, you can now resolve your conflicts directly in the Fabric UI, which means that you don't really need to move around in between pages to resolve them, saving you a few clicks. So the Microsoft Purview Hub is now available in Fabric, which used to be purely just for your Power BI tenants. Now, what it's showing here, and I have already covered this in a separate video already, it covers and shows you a lot of things about your tenant. So things like, who's using what and what sort of things you have in your tenants, what sort of reports and dashboards that you have, what labels do they have, and what coverage do they have. So a lot of these information can be summarized using this Purview Hub view. And that's really it for this video. So as usual, I didn't cover everything that was announced as part of the December updates, only the ones that I was interested in. So if you want to read more about all the other updates that I didn't cover, I'll leave a link to the blog posts in the description box below. Thanks for watching. As usual, give this video a like if you found it useful. Give it a dislike if you didn't, so not to do better for next time. Ask your questions in the comment section box below so I can help you and you can help others. If you like this video, we have a Patreon page where you can support the channel and get exclusive perks like early access, demo files, and credits at the end of these videos. Thanks again for watching and see you in the next one. Bye bye.